for the passing rate higher than what they had as a
So
quartile,
most students.
well, they would have failed. They would have,
Oh, they-
426,
well, okay.
they wouldn't have been algebra, and this year they were saying that's a failing score. So, we're
Cut
just gonna-
scores, I hate that term.
I'm gonna talk about them.
Cut scores. You get cut from the team, you know?
I know,
We're
yeah,
cutting them from school?
yeah. Yeah, that's what it makes it sound like, doesn't it? Negative, yeah.
Got a lot of kids here tonight.
People here tonight, for
Yeah.
sure.
Probably won't be there for too long,
You know, is there a lot of student presentations tonight?
I guess.
I didn't feel like I saw that.
School board meeting will now come to order. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, okay. All right, public announcements. All right, October the 14th, school board meets with the Board of Supervisors joint work session at MHS on the renovations at 5 p.m. October the 16th, division-wide parent-teacher conference, early release for students. October the 17th, staff professional day, no school for students. October the 22nd, end of the first grading period. October 29th, report cards sent home. November the 7th, school system will be closed. And November the 10th will be our next regular school board meeting here at St. Clair Walker. All right, next we have is a recognition.
Recognitions, I have a few things that have been sent to us from the Virginia School Board Association. First, I would like to recognize Dr. Burnett for an award of excellence for your commitment to effective school board governance through your participation in the VSBA School Board Academy from 23 to 25. And then also, we have two awards of recognition. The first is for Kim Bagby and then also for Karen Murray, who are our clerk and deputy clerk, and that is, again, for their commitment to effective school board governance through your participation in the VSBA School Board Academy from 2023 to 2025. And so I will present you all with those certificates. Dr. Burnett, you also have a pin.
Thank you.
And also, we have an award for Dr. Tracy Sykes, Award of Excellence for your commitment to effective school board governance through your participation in the VSBA Board Academy.
Well, thank you, sir.
And you have a pen.
Thank you, sir.
All right, is there anything else?
That's all we have for this evening.
Okay. All right, next we have educational highlights. St. Clair Walker.
Good evening. We have both 6th and 7th graders here with us tonight. Our 6th graders are going to start off by talking about their data cycles, but I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Robinson so she can explain what's been going on in the classroom.
Okay, can all my 6th graders stand up with your graphs and come to the front? Do you guys want them facing the crowd or do you want them facing you with their graphs? Okay, so hold your graphs up. So the first unit of the school week, we did Unit 1, the data cycle. So I thought it would be a fun way for them to experience it by doing a project, by thinking of a question they can ask their 6th grade classmates. So the first step with the data cycle is creating or formulating a question. So some of them asked, what is your favorite candy? I had them give options only because you would get a lot of options and we're trying to make our graph not that big, but I gave them 4 to 5 topics to choose from. With the second part of the data cycle, they have to collect data. So I had them create a Google form and then they sent it to me for approval and I dish it out to random class blocks. After that, the third part of the data cycle was them organizing and creating graphs and representing the data that they received. After that, they talked in front of their classmates and they communicated their results. So I would like for them to tell you guys all about their graphs.
Hello, my name's Callie Horn. For our project, we did your favorite candy, and we did Starburst, Trolleys, Twix, Reese's, and Hubba Bubba Gum. And we got the most votes for Reese's. You want to say anything? Nothing? We talked to our classmates, and we made this graph together after we got, like, all of our votes. And, yeah.
Hi, I'm Victoria Davenport, and this is Reagan. And we did NFL teams, and we had the most votes for Eagles, and and the least votes for the Commanders. And there's a tie for Commanders and Ravens. Anything you want to say, Reagan? Wow, okay.
My name's Briley Anton. This is Claire. This is Layla. Our topic was what's your favorite dessert? So we all created this graph together. Unfortunately, our friend Audrey, who helped make this, is not here. But yeah, we all put in some effort and hard work and time into this. So our first one is brownies. That was the least vote, unfortunately, with 4 votes. And yeah.
And coming in first place was ice cream with 18 votes. And I think second was cookies with 8 votes, and cake with 7.
Hello, my name is Grant, and this is Cameron Blazek. You want to say anything?
Putting me on the spot here. Chick-fil-A was our most popular with 10 votes. And other was just our least popular with about 2 votes. And Taco Bell and McDonald's have tied with 3 votes. So,
So, yeah, we did your favorite fast food restaurant, and we got those cool guys that sponsor them. You know those guys you see on the TV in, like, the 90s, like, eat more chicken. Yeah. Hey, I'm doing the talking here. Yeah, I guess, like, other fast food restaurants aren't good. because they're sad down there with only 2 votes. If anyone out there in the crowd voted for those 2, I'm sorry.
Mariah, yeah.
Best thing ever.
My name is Ella.
My name is Quinn.
I'm Brianna.
And our title for our graph was favorite grade, and what we did was a fall and Halloween theme with the graph, and the one that got the most votes was 5th grade with 14 votes, and the one that got the least was 1st grade with only 1 vote. We had 4th and 2nd tie.
I don't even know what's on it. You okay? Did you say something about that? No. And 5th got the most, and there's a leaf on the cats.
How 5th grade got the most, I don't know if I already said this, but it got 14 votes in total out of whatever block she chose for our graph to go to. And we do have a person that did not come today that helped with our graph as well.
All right, do me a favor, turn around front, smile for your parents so they can take a picture of you. Brianna, where you going, girl? Your group's that way.
Don't cover your face.
Please don't, smile pretty. Girls, come this way. I don't know if I can move this. Sorry if I'm not supposed to move this. Okay. Smile pretty. Woohoo. Y'all can keep the graphs. If you don't want them, then give them to me. But you worked really hard on them.
As you can tell, they had a lot of fun doing this project, and they did learn the importance of data collection. We also have another group of students coming forward to talk about a project they completed last year at the end of 6th grade, the Civil War Battlefield Project. So we'll call them up here. Ms. Dolinsky.
I'm going to take some of these, pass them around. All right, good evening, hello. I'm Marcia Jelinsky. I'm the history teacher at St. Clair Walker Middle School, 6th grade. And this is actually a project I did with the 6th graders last year. Caitlin, did you do this one, the battlefield? Yes. We've been doing it for a few years, and it's a big favorite, but it's at the end of the school year. It's the last big thing that we do. But essentially, Steve, can you go to the next one, please? All right, so what we did was the students picked a battle from the Civil War that they were interested in. They could pick any one of the, how many is it, 260? Something like that, battles that they could pick from to do their project on. And then they created a handout explaining their battles. So that's what we were passing around. Well, then the fun part is we get messy in the classroom and we make salt dough and create the actual battlefield. One day we're building. Next slide, please. We're building some more. It gets very messy in the classroom. And then the next day, we are painting and decorating. So they are trying to show the topography of a Civil War battle and explain how it kind of impacted the battle itself. So they're going to talk a little bit about theirs. I'm going to bring them over here. Come, ladies. You're first. Come on. You're fine.
Hi, my name is Madeline Thomas, and we picked Fort Sumter, and what really stood out to us was how it was a man-made island and just like the geographical features of the island that stood out to us, and we thought it would be really fun to design.
When we made it, it was one building on like a small man-made island, and this battle was Battle of Fort Sumter. It took place April 12, 1861, throughout April 13th, and ended in 1861 also.
The outcome of this battle was that the Union surrendered, and we put all the flags on there, and we put the flag of the one that won in the fort, and we tried to make it look kind of roughed up because the geographical features of it, the hills like provided protection for each side, and we tried to make the hills stand out a little bit more, just to show how they.
That's it.
So we picked the Battle of Shiloh. It was in Shiloh. Okay, I've never known how to pronounce that, but it was in Hardin County, Tennessee, and on April 6th and ended on the 7th of 1862. It was an ambush on the Union soldiers who were stationed, and it was also known as the Hornet's Nest because when the Confederates ambushed, you could hear their battle cries coming over the hill. We only have the second half of the hill, so we could include the Shiloh River next to it.
The outcome of the outcome was the Confederate lines were destroyed, and they were sent on the run. The morale was low, especially due to death of Albert Johnson, their general. This resulted in a Union victory.
And as well as us during the Battle of Shiloh, one of our classmates who is no longer in the school district recreated the Monitor and Merrimack from the Battle of Hampton Roads. So we thought that was really cool what he did.
That's it.
Actually, these guys weren't able to make it, but I do want to speak to this one. They specifically picked this battle because it had hot air balloons in it, and they wanted to put a hot air balloon in their battle, and it actually went across the project. So they were very specific that they wanted to put that in there, and I'm sad they're not here tonight to talk about that.
Hello, my name is Abby, and me and Jillian picked the Battle of Palmetto Ranch because the name really stood out to us. So then we dig deeper into the information and found that this was the battle we really wanted to do. In the battle, there was mostly grasslands and fields and creeks, and it was really cloudy and foggy when the war happened, the battle. You gotta say something. What do you want me to say? There's nothing much to this battle.
Girls, did you have fun building it?
Yes, we had so much fun.
Did you have fun playing with the glue gun?
Yes, we used lots of hot glue.
And little grass
Yes, we used the grass to make it more realistic.
and little wooden sticks to make a ramp or
Yeah.
raft, whatever it's called.
Thank you.
this is a school night. At this time, if anyone would like to leave, you can have a minute or two to exit at this time.
There goes the crowd.
I'm sure they're glad that's over.
I want to go back to 6th grade. That looks amazing. That little boy up here,
Yeah,
I could hang out with him.
we need him up here. Liven up this. He was a hoot.
He's gonna be going to a comedy club.
No kidding. I'll be here all week.
He's too funny. Too funny.
No kidding.
There goes the crowd.
Close the doors, close the
I
doors.
can't believe everybody's gone now.
All right. Next, we have public comment. The floor is now open for public comment.
Did not have anyone sign up for public comment.
Okay. Being none, public comment is now closed. All right, next we have board members' comments or reports.
I do not have anything other than to put my buddy over here to the left, give her a little recognition. Everybody was occupied elsewhere. Dr. Burnett and I were there for the homecoming parade, and against her will, she rode with me in the back of the truck, and she was the star of the show. And so I just want to thank Kim and appreciate her. I will say, the reason I'm bringing this up is not to embarrass her, but going down the streets and the families and the children on the side of the road, I can assure you, no one was excited to see us. All I heard was, Kim, Miss Kim. So I think that's a true testament to the role she plays in our division, so thank you, Kim.
Well, and she also decorated the
She did indeed.
float.
She did. So it was great.
And she's been playing that role for a long time.
Yes, so thank you very much.
Dan?
I have no official report, other than to say that the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School is off and running. I think they're doing amazing things. And we will meet again in November for our joint board meeting.
Thomas?
We had a Bridging Communities meeting last week, I'm sorry. The culinary class, they're doing a program called Kids Feeding Kids, so that sounds exciting. They did make us food while we were there, and it was actually pretty good. They have a Fill the Truckster event going on for Coat and Toy Drive. They also have a golf tournament on the 15th of May coming up next year at Brookwoods. So get your teams together if you want to participate in that. The signing day has been moved up to May 6th this year, so it doesn't interfere with any graduations or commencements. And they also are taking over the RCC building. So now they're doing network upgrades, security upgrades, so they're expanding and starting to build into bigger classrooms also.
Jen?
I had a regional special ed meeting last month, but nothing really to report. So, what's up?
Caitlin?
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of really exciting trips going on at the elementary school. In the past month, the pre-kindergartners have gotten the opportunity to visit Hollyfort Farm, so the pumpkin patch. And they've also had a demonstration from the volunteer fire department, EMS, and police departments. Other grades have also been enjoying trips to Jamestown to learn about the first English settlement, field trips to Urbana to learn about oyster education in preparation for Oyster Fest next month, and also lessons incorporating bullying prevention. And we've also had the MES Colt News Show is now up and running. So 5th grade students had the opportunity to apply for their news crew. And the update I received is they'll have 3 separate news crews throughout the year to publish the daily news show for all the elementary schoolers to watch. At St. Clair Walker Middle School, the science department has had a lot of fun activities planned. So sixth graders had the opportunity to learn about phases of the moon using Oreos. Seventh graders got to dissect frogs in their life science classes. And eighth graders participated in a density lab using starbursts. And in addition to the Starburst Lab, they also had the opportunity to participate in the reality store, where they get to partake in jobs, have incomes, and also practice budgeting skills that they'll be able to take with them into high school in their future careers. In addition to that, WinBlock has now started, where students have the opportunity to receive additional instruction or participate in clubs such as TSA, Builders Club, STEM Club, Drama Club, and National Junior Honor Society. And then also the Drama Club is now up and running. They held auditions 2 weeks ago and selected their cast as well as their set crew, sound crew, costume and makeup crews, and then program and advertising crews. And then at the high school, a lot of the energy this past month has been focusing on homecoming. So our Student Government Association has been busy planning our homecoming celebrations, decorating hallways, decorating floats, and planning our pep rally, which was a big hit this year. In addition to that, our National Honor Society has held their first meeting, and we're now preparing for our induction ceremony this coming month. Spanish Honor Society celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month with displays throughout the school. And we also have the introduction of a new club called Tri-M. So, to my knowledge, it's a music honor society that is working to foster interest in music leadership and for future educators in music, as well as broaden music knowledge for the band children.
Very nice.
Thank you. Well done.
Oh, happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Caitlin.
What a fun place for you to be on your birthday.
I know your principal got you a big cake, didn't she?
You might want to run for the hills too.
I know. We really can't excuse you if you want to go take one. Because it gets turned over to me next and mine's already boring. So.
And I have nothing to report except we have a meeting with the Board of Supervisors tomorrow evening at the high school at 5 o'clock. Okay. Next, we have some action items, policy revision.
All right, so in your packet, we have policy JFC, student conduct, and we reviewed that and updated it at last month's meeting, and that was approved. But during the discussion piece of it, the board did request information on the need to further define trespassing, which is on page 4 of the policy that's in your packet. So after reviewing JFC-R, Standards of Student Conduct, which is the regulation that's associated with this policy, trespassing is defined as coming on school property or attending a school activity without proper authority, including but not limited to the period of a student's out-of-school suspension or expulsion. And I believe, and also ran this past VSBA attorneys, that that would cover the definition. So if the board would like the regulation referenced within the policy, my recommendation is to add it to the top of page 3, which is the new underlined part in the packet, instead of just adding it to the trespassing section, because the regulation does contain many more definitions. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, or have you all engaged in discussion on that?
So do we need to pass an amendment, or?
You would be approving that addition to the new, you can update a policy every month. You don't have to say that it's an amendment, but on that page 3, if you choose that that is the best place to add it, where it says the following conduct is prohibited, students engaging in such conduct are subject to disciplinary action, and that's when it goes in the list of the conduct. So that's where I added CJFC-R, Standards of Student Conduct, for additional definitions. So you would be approving a policy update, if that's what you choose to do.
I move that we update the policy as you just described.
Second?
Moving properly second. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. All right, next we have the Disposal of surplus items.
Yes, and so we have identified 2 items as surplus that are valued at more than $500 that we would like to list on GovDeals site for sale. That's where we put those items. Because of the value of the items, school board approval is needed to place those items on GovDeals.
Okay. I move that we are allowed to place those items on GovDeals.
Second.
Moving properly second. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Okay, next we have budget calendar.
Budget calendar, so within your packet, you have the FY 2027 budget calendar. The dates do align with the current calendar that we operated on for FY 26, which includes presentations, work sessions, and the dates for budget approval. So I do bring this calendar to you this evening for the board's approval.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Next, we have information items.
All right, the first thing I have is GCBDR, which is the regulation for staff leaves and absences that is tied to policy GCBD. We are updating the section on bereavement leave. Our current regulation states that it can only be used once per fiscal year, but unfortunately, our staff may experience the death of what we've defined as immediate family more than once in a fiscal year, and we believe that they should be given the 3 days of bereavement leave per occurrence. This is a regulation, so it does not require a vote, but I am happy to answer any questions or to have further discussion.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's an update. And when I say we, I mean Dr. Bishop, Ms. Murray is engaged to that, and then Mrs. Tuning, who is our HR specialist. We look at policy, and then we always reach out to our regional partners and see what their policies say also to be more in line with other. It just happened to pop up, and so we felt like that there was a need to update that regulation.
Okay. We do not need a vote for that.
Do not need a vote for it.
All right. Next we have school performance.
Yes, and so this, Hassan, you should have a presentation, and I'm gonna actually move down here so I can see that at the same time I am presenting it. All right, so I am back to bring you some information on what we know, and then I will finish with what we are still waiting on. But with that, let's see, if I don't have a clicker, Hassan, yep, there we go. And so these are, the first few slides are kind of some reminders. And so going into this year, the Virginia Department of Education bifurcated the accountability and accreditation system. It was one, and so what they did was divide it into 2 separate branches to better align accountability with federal standards, and then also to separate out the pieces that fall under accreditation. So under the framework side of things, and that's on the left part of the screen or the left part of your slide that's in your packet, is the framework measure, and that measures mastery, growth, readiness, and graduation, and I'm going to speak more to those items as we move through this evening's presentation. On the accreditation side, it measures the components of the standards of accreditation. So for example, it looks at promotion and retention policies and ensuring that we have those things in place. It's graduation requirements, again, assuring we have those things in place. That our instructional program follows the requirements in the Code of Virginia. There are leadership and staffing requirements. It defines principal and support staff, and that they're working with the principal to promote student achievement and attain the goals of the school. There's also minimum staffing requirements that meet the standards of quality. There are facilities and safety provisions. All of our drills fall into here. There are parental notifications. There are a lot of those things that are mostly covered in the family handbook that goes out at the beginning of the year. This ensures that the standards of learning are being fully incorporated into the division's curriculum. There's long-range comprehensive plan, and then for schools that are identified with comprehensive or additional target support at the state or federal level, it's making sure that you're meeting those things. And so there were two very large reports that Dr. Bishop and I completed separately that fall under accreditation for this year. Going forward, the expectation will be that the school principals will complete all of those requirements to ensure that we're following everything for accreditation, and the principals have not had to do this before. This will be something new that principals will need to do on the accreditation side of things. But because they separated it out from accountability, we have been told that no school will receive accreditation denied this year because it is the first year of the separation. And it is based on last year's school data and things that were in place. So now the next few slides, whoops, if you'll go back to that one, Hassan, sorry. Yep, weighting of the framework. And so this we have presented on a little bit. We had a work session on a little bit. So it is a really high-level overview. I'll get into some of the details because then you'll find out I don't actually have a score that I can present to you yet. And so on the framework side of things, this is when we're looking at mastery. All three schools, you can see, have a different mastery weight. Mastery includes our mathematics, reading, and science SOL assessments and the scores that students earn on those. And those scores then equate to points that go into the framework that get added up. At the high school level, the points range from a 0.75 to a 1.25, depending on what that SOL score was. And at the elementary and middle grades, except for science, the points range from a 0.25 to a 1.25, again, depending on what students scored on what I will say are the last year's SOL scores. Growth is measured in elementary and middle only, and it is measured in the area of mathematics and reading SOLs for 4th through 8th graders. This year the state used Vivos, which is an independent third-party contractor that the state contracted that measured students' growth. And in this case, the information we got from that, it was not just how they did from last year to this year, it's all of their testing combined in that. They're also compared to their cohorts and other students across the state that were taking that. I will say, and this will come up at the very end, is that the state did not continue that contract with Vivos. We will be able to use it for the 2025 school year data for growth, but the VDOE does have to come up with a new system for measuring growth because that is a part of the framework. Readiness, that will measure in all three schools. Chronic absenteeism falls into that because we're measured on our students' attendance. At the elementary level, that is the only thing that is measured in readiness right now. There were some performance tasks that VDOE wanted to build into elementary and middle, but they have not been able to generate those tasks, so they obviously will not be measured. At the middle school level, advanced math does fall into the readiness category, but any category that's measured, you have to have at least 15 students who have scored in it in order for it to be reported. And so, for example, last year we had, for the readiness category at the middle school, or for the advanced math category at the middle school, any student who earned Pass Advanced on the prior year's Math 7 SOL, the state looked at should be in an 8th grade Algebra 1 course. And we did that. We had 8 students that completed Algebra 1, but because the number is below 15, it is not a reportable category. The scores still count in the mastery part, but it doesn't count in the advanced math portion of the readiness category, so those percentages get shifted a little bit. At the high school level, in addition to chronic absenteeism and readiness, is the Ready for Life 3E categories and then the 6-year graduation indicator. And then the high school also has that graduation category, which measures the 4-year cohort. and measuring on-time graduation from the time the students entered the 9th grade. And so all 3 of our schools have English language learners, and in the framework, our ELL students' scores would go in the mastery category, but that is another category at all 3 of our schools that has less than 15 students who were measured. So it's not reported in that category, and so the percentages now shift and get distributed through other areas. So the example that I'm giving you with these weights will look a little bit different from Middlesex County Public Schools because of some shifting of categories or reporting categories there. So next slide, please. The 3E readiness framework, that measures enrollment, employment, and enlistment. It was kind of a shift from what we were measuring in the high school. And so for us, students are assigned points based on their dual enrollment and if they're earning an associate's degree while they're at Middlesex High School. In the employment area, that's where there's the measures really are related to career and technical education, or CTE, completers and certifications, and this is just a very high level of what they measure. And then enlistment is a score that a student learns on the ASVAB, which is the military entrance exam. So last year, once this was put into place, especially the enlistment piece, we had all of our juniors and seniors take the ASVAB so that the seniors in the 24-25 year could earn those points towards the 3E category. Our practice going forward will be that all juniors will take it, and then if a student wants to earn a higher score on the ASVAB, they can retake it again in their senior year. And we are getting our counselors trained to be able to deliver that assessment to them in school. Next slide, yep. And so these are the performance categories. I have shared them, but it's been a while ago. These were already approved by the state board several months ago, actually. And you'll see that distinguished is 90 points and above, and the next is on track, 80 to 89 points. And these are scores that not the students earn, but that the school earns based on the prior percentages that I just went over. Off track is 65 to 79, and then needs intensive support is below 65 points. I think I should share, which has been a little bit frustrating to those of us on the receiving end, is that there is no rounding after the 100th place. So you could essentially have a school that scores a 79.99 and not round to an 80 to be considered on track. Originally, they thought that those at BDOE thought that scores would be rounded, but the board confirmed that there is no rounding after a certain point. So those are the 4 performance categories that the board voted on earlier. Federal identification, I bring this up because this also, the accountability framework was designed to be more in line with what our federal requirements are. And there is some of the reporting that's reported in that framework is also counted at a federal level, and which means that schools could also be identified at the federal level for more support. So the largest is comprehensive, that's the whole school. There's a targeted support, which means it could be a specific student group that did not meet the federal requirements. And then later on, we will see another category added in, the additional targeted support for groups that have continued to stay in some of those categories. I will add that schools that are identified with targeted or additional targeted will have to lower their performance category 1 level. So it could be possible that you've got a school that has met the requirements to be on track in the performance categories, but it could be that there's one subgroup within that school that did not perform, that performed very poorly, and they would be identified as targeted, which knocks the overall school's identification or performance category down 1 level. So that is the performance categories. Hassan, I'm going to ask you to go back. Yep, thank you. That's an overview of the performance framework. I'm going to move now on into cut scores. And so in addition to the performance framework being finalized, which I will add is not finalized, and it is October 13th, the state also decided to recommend to the state board that cut scores be updated going into this year and for assessments for this year. And so this slide I pulled right from VDOE. What are cut scores? We were having a little bit of a conversation about that before the meeting started. So it's the minimum score a student needs to reach a specific performance level, and so proficient and advanced. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. And it's referring to the Virginia Standards of Learning assessments, and that's which are used to determine a student's level of understanding. I think we're all familiar with the SOLs. And so the proficient and advanced are considered passing, and what VDOE wants us to be more aligned with the NAEP proficiency. NAEP is the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and it is considered the nation's report card. It measures 4th, 8th, and 12th grade reading, mathematics, and science across the country. And so when they received the 2024 data, because that's the most recent NAEP data that any of the states have, they felt very strongly that these scores needed to be updated because we've had new standards come out in mathematics and in reading, and we had new tests that were taken this year by our students. The tests that they took in mathematics and reading were new with the newly aligned standards, and so the VDOE felt strongly that the cut scores also needed to be updated, and so that's, you'll see why they are changing. It's to align with those more rigorous SOL content standards. And again, it just says that mathematics and English were updated. This was the first year of the new assessments there. And so next slide, please. So these are the new cut scores that were approved by the Board of Education at their September 25th meeting. I will tell you, they took us all a little bit by surprise. And so right now, if you're not familiar with what scores look like, a 400 is considered proficient, which is passing, and then 500 is advanced. And these numbers have been around. Anything below 400, there is a basic category for elementary and middle school courses and a below basic category. End of course assessments did not have a below basic category. It was anything under 400 was considered basic, which below basic and basic are considered not passing. And so with the new scores update, you can see if you're looking at the proficiency level, they are different in most all of the assessments now. And so grade 3, for example, goes from a 400 to a 444, and I'll just flip down to end of course reading. The top is reading, the bottom section's mathematics. End of course reading goes from a 400 to a 479 to consider to be passing. That was the highest jump, was end of course reading. And then you can see in the area of mathematics that the jumps range from 430 to a 453, I think was the biggest jump, and that is in Algebra 1. So these new scores have been passed by the board as of their meeting last week. And so this page we know. The next pieces that I'm going to present to you are some proposals that VDOE is looking at. So we can go to the next slide. When those scores were proposed and voted on by the state board, they also requested or directed VDOE to implement an implementation plan. And the two biggest pieces, or the two major components, are first, they are proposing a multi-year phased approach is the first thing, and the second is adding a temporary category or indicator, they're calling it, which is the approaching category, which is to recognize student progress towards the proficiency. And I'm going to go over a little bit about what that would look like. And then they've got to have revised score reports for parents and things like that, and they state that they will provide additional resources. And so if we can go to the next slide. This is an example of 5th grade reading if we were looking at a 4-year phase-in with the approaching category. So you can see for year 25-26, let's scoot all the way over to proficient, because that's the new pass, which is a 446, and then advanced is 510. Basic and below basic are still considered failing, and so they've added this temporary category in there called approaching. And what they have stated in meetings is that the approaching category would count as a pass for the student and for the school. And so you can see that this first year, if they were to put this plan into place this year, that students earning a 414 on the 5th grade reading SOL would count as a pass for that student and count for a pass as that school, and then actually, I don't know how they're going to figure out points, because that throws the points all off for the framework, so I'm not sure how they would do that. They'd have to figure that part out, instead of jumping immediately to a 446. And then the following year, it jumps to 424, the following year, 434, until it is phased out, because the next jump would be to the 446, which would be considered proficient. So again, this is an example for just one test for a 4-year model. Some other information before we go to the next slide. VDOE has proposed a 4-year and they proposed a 5-year. This is an example of the 4-year, and so they did sketch out what those scores potentially would look like if this is the proposal that they go forward with. So if you look at the top, reading, approaching, so these are only the approaching cut scores. These are not proficient or advanced or anything like that. So if you look at, just looking at the very left side, grade 3, this year a 418 would be needed to be considered a pass. The next year 426. The next year 435. I will say that they have not committed to or said yes, that these approaching scores would count as a verified credit at the high school level. The question was asked in one of the meetings I was in and was not answered, because I don't know what the proposal will be from VDOE for that. There is also some conversation at VDOE that this year could be considered a year 0, which means that none of the modeling would go into effect until the next school year, 26-27. Right now, they have stated that the current seniors, they would hold that 400 pass rate in place for current seniors. I'll add that a senior year is not a year that our students are taking SOLs. They start their SOLs in 9th grade and they finish them in 11th grade. So any seniors that we have that are still taking SOLs in their senior year, it's because they are taking retakes, which is important, because Virginia is one of 7 states that still requires passing of high stakes testing in order to graduate. And so our seniors are required to pass 5 SOLs in order to graduate. So there's an English reading, an English writing, a mathematics assessment, a science assessment, and a history assessment. Again, we take those 9th through 11th grade. The superintendents have really argued and pushed that, especially for high schools, this new plan not go into effect until the next school year, 26-27, because like I said, our 9th graders are already preparing for SOLs this year. And to put this in place now, you are changing graduation requirements while our students are already in high school. And so we believe that they are listening to that, but we'll have to wait on a final vote. So this is the 4-year model. We can go to the next slide, and it just gives you an example of the 5-year model. So you see the approaching scores, which are considered passing, are a little bit lower for that first year. And it just gives us a little more time to build into those higher standards and higher expectations. And so we will go to the last slide, and I can let you know what we are still waiting on. So SPSF is the School Performance and Support Framework score and performance categories. We have not received the report yet on what our summary scores are, which means we do not know which categories our schools fall into. We have not received any notification yet of federal identification. I will say that our schools have not been federally identified in the past, but my conversation with the Director of Accountability did tell me, when I asked if more schools were being identified federally, he said they are, and he said schools that have never been identified before are being identified. We do not know our accreditation status yet, because those top 3 things are coming in one summary report that Dr. Bishop and I are checking for every day. I will say that I serve on the State Superintendent's Leadership Council, and we had a meeting on Friday And I asked specifically when we would get that information, and her answer, she said, I'll be very honest with you, I don't know. And so we do not have those numbers yet. It doesn't mean we're not working towards what we believe is coming, we just don't have those final numbers. We also don't know what the implementation plan will be. The plan is from VDOE is to present that at next week's state board meeting for them to vote on. And so we are hoping for this year being a year 0 and a 5-year phase-in, so that we're working towards that. So we don't know yet the phasing model, and we don't know yet the year of implementation. And then lastly, I mentioned early on that the state, they did not keep it in the budget to keep VFAS as that vendor that measured growth. And so they are working, at the same time they're working on this year's performance category, they have a separate group working on trying to determine what's the best way to measure growth in 4th through 8th graders. So we've attended some meetings, we've given some feedback on that, but I feel like probably we'll get that information a little bit later than we get some of the other information. So with all of that, I'm happy to answer questions, or try to answer questions.
How long have you got?
So this would be the time of year that you all are getting final numbers. And actually, the way this worked before is that once SOL testing was over, in the middle of June, we had an excellent idea of where we were. We also knew whether we were accredited or not accredited. It's just been a series of delays in getting information to us. I think that Dr. Bishop and I were not surprised that the delays were going to happen. But every time they'd go, they being VDOE would be prepared to send a report, or they would send a report. There were so many corrections, errors, small changes that it's holding up the next version of a report, which is now holding up the summary report.
So is VDOE unwilling to provide the information as if none of this was happening at all? And it was this time last year. Are they not willing just to provide the old information so that there's something to work from while they're figuring this out?
The board already voted on this performance framework in those categories. And I will say that my colleagues at the Department of Education, I think, are working their backsides off to try to get this done. Unfortunately for them, they are in a position where what they've got coming from a higher level and then what's coming at them that's voted on in the General Assembly and then getting also pushed to the State Board of Education, they're the ones that are trying to figure this out and get it implemented. And they'll have great ideas. And I've been sitting on this performance advisory group. I'm the only superintendent on it. I've been on that probably for a year now, and we'll dig into reports and give feedback. Sometimes it goes to a different level and it gets tweaked. I hear the term business rules a lot, and that is the actual what's going to make this work. And so I do think that those who are working on it at the department or at the agency are trying to get us something, but they're just running into too many hiccups. The hard part is we're trying to put things in place not knowing, we know where we are, but the target's changing on where we might have to be come the end of May of this year.
Well, and suppose that and understood, and I understand that you are trying to get all of the information you can, but as you mentioned, this could impact graduation for some students. So what can parents do, who are seeing these scores and wondering how our division's going to look? If these scores were in place when they took the SOLs in the spring, how would we have looked?
They would be rough, yeah.
They would be rough. So that's a concern for me, and I'm sure for many parents and for you guys. So we know you're fighting for this. What do parents do who are in a panic over it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't want anybody to panic. We're not going to panic. This is not a crisis right now. And so that's why I don't like, so I'm glad you brought that up, which is why I don't like to send stuff out in the very beginning when I don't have enough of the details that I can share, because I know some of it came out and then it was, hold on, wait a second, the VDOE's looking at a phased-in model, and then I hear, oh, now they had two of the assistant superintendents there held regional superintendents meetings, and it just happened that we were the last group. Region 3 was the last group, so by the time it got to us, they were already talking about a year 0. Now, I don't know that that's what they're going to propose to the board, but it is the State Board of Education who will make these final decisions.
Obviously, we're going to follow whatever policies are put into place. We don't have any choice. My questions have to do with how are we going to inform parents? How are we going to inform students about these changes? Because these are significant changes. So once we get the policies that we're going to go forward with, once that's solidified, what plans should we make to inform both students and parents? There's a lot of research that shows that seniors in particular really are not into taking these high-stakes exams very seriously. They're out of here. And so what are we going to do to make them realize that these are important exams that you're going to be taking? There is value in it for you. The research shows that, I think, and this is based upon the NEEP, not on the SOLs, but seniors, only about 35% of seniors see the importance of doing well for them, even if they could do well on these exams. It's just one more thing to do your senior year. And so I don't expect you to answer me tonight, but that's something I would like to see us plan for, both for students and for parents.
Yes, and we've talked about that. We've talked about, first of all, we have continued to ask VDOE and we've asked them, give us the slides that you want us to present. So we are talking the same language that you were talking. We don't get those. We've asked for simple things, and they've got some resources on their website, but what they've got up there is old, and it's not anything that it just talks about why we think there should be higher standards. No disagreement at all, that we don't want to have the highest standards as possible for our children. It is explaining what this looks like now and what the big change is. We've continued to ask for that. I don't know that we're going to see that in time. I think part of it is I will know a lot more after next Thursday's meeting on, do we have a year for implementation of this, or does it look like something different? This year, our principals and specialists were already meeting about it. We've talked about holding what we've called SOL nights as information. We can send home information, and we can create one-pagers to send it home, but what we want to make sure is to communicate is that our parents really know the assessments that their child's expected to take. I think if we gave it the third grade reading SOL to most people, a lot of people would struggle with it. We're even looking at backing it down, and that the teachers in the other years, you need to know what these 8 and 9-year-olds, and I say 8 and 9-year-olds because that's where it starts. By high school, they've had a lot of practice usually. There is a graduation requirement hanging out there, and so for the most part, they are buckling down and getting that. But, as I pointed out, that end of course reading, which is an 11th grade assessment, jumps from 400 to 479 as a pass rate. So there needs to be an understanding on both the students and the parents' part of the seriousness of what these assessments mean, and how, once we get to the high school level, we are looking at graduation.
So if that 11th grader, just hypothetically, didn't get a 479, what happens?
They retake. And then also there is an alternative assessment that we could use in the area of reading that would go towards graduation. We use it not as a first go-to. And so whenever, especially at the high school level, when a student is not successful on an SOL, they immediately go into a plan to retake that so that there's opportunity there.
So I think that's helpful for parents, that, I think in the delivery when we're talking about this impacts graduation, sure, but so that they know we have a plan.
Right, yeah. And there's a few alternatives there. Not a lot, but there's a few alternatives there that we can work with them on to get through it. I will tell you that our teachers at the high school are already working on those raising everything to those new cut scores, even if we've got a year zero or even if we've got an implementation phase in. They're working on that.
And I would say, let's be real careful on information that goes out and make sure that our information is accurate. Because
That-
it's-
That is my goal, which is why it might take a little bit long. Of course, we only meet once a month, but sometimes it gives me time to gather more information. And like I said, sometimes it's changing just like this on what it may look like. So I don't want to send out information that says, you know, grab your kids and run for the woods. They're never going to get through school, because we're also working on what that plan looks like to have our kids be successful. But the same thing, we don't want to send alarming information to our teaching staff either, you know, on look at this and look at what it would look like if we were using these scores. I mean, every school division across the Commonwealth started to work those numbers on what would it look like if we had this. And it was alarming. I don't like to push that alarm down. Let's work on what our plans are going to be to get to where we need to be if we're not already there.
Have you heard of other school boards that have voiced frustration over, like you said, it's October 13th, you know?
Yeah.
I
It's-
think that,
it's like-
I can't speak for the others, but that's frustrating to me and for
Yeah.
you all and our, you know, the faculty who are struggling right now trying to raise, I don't disagree with higher standards, that's great.
Right.
But I feel like they've pulled the rug out from these
Yeah.
divisions.
Yeah,
And there should have been a year of talking and planning before anything was talking about being implemented.
Now, I will tell you that they will tell you they started this in 2022, and they may have started talking about it in 2022, because if you go to the VDOE's website and it says, here's our plan, and this starts in 2022, I think the cut scores were not a part of that, but that's always been a mission of this administration, is to get those cut scores raised, which we've seen. We see adjustments whenever those standards, mathematics and reading, whenever the standards change, you would see some adjustment in that assessment. This was just,
Well, in the entire
big adjustment.
framework that you've been talking, I mean,
Yeah.
you haven't known what to tell us for the past several months, so it's not just the cuts, it just seems like a cluster here at the end of this administration where, you know, the expectations are there without the tools to get there, so.
I would agree with that statement, yes.
You know, I hope that when you're in these meetings that you're voicing that it's.
Yes, I did that on Friday with the state superintendent. I said, I have a meeting on Monday evening with my school board. We meet once a month. I have got to give them information. When will we have this? And she said, I don't know, I'll be honest. And I said, well, I appreciate the honesty, but I still need to give them information on Monday evening at a school board meeting.
So are they making it up as they go, or is it a focal point at the end that they're trying to get to?
I don't think they're making it up as they go. I think this has been such a huge change and undertaking. I don't think anybody realized the amount of manpower that had to go into it. And they've had a lot of change at VDOE. I think we sitting on the ground looked at it and said, there's no way this is going to work this fast. And they're going to be able to have all of this information to us. And then they would, and Dr. Bishop will laugh at me because I'll say, they said I was going to have this on this date. And he's like, you've got to move on. They don't have it on that date. So it's just like, we're going through the school year, and our teachers are teaching everything. We have already raised our classroom expectations and the materials that we have and that we're expecting, and the high quality materials and the curriculum that has already been vetted that's in place. Our principals and assistant principals are doing a phenomenal job getting in classrooms regularly. They're meeting with teachers and helping with planning if they see that there are areas of need there. So there's a lot of work going on, but there still isn't a real target.
So as of like next week's board meeting, the only thing we're really gonna get if there's gonna be a year zero or is gonna be this phasing.
So that's what we would expect is the implementation plan.
So
Still don't know when we're gonna get the numbers for last year's data, but yes.
No, because considering next month is the election, would not be surprised if this doesn't happen until after the General Assembly.
I will tell you that some people have thought that.
Because, come November, depending on if there is an administration change, then they're gonna try to implement their policies coming January.
Yeah, I certainly don't know that. I say on the outside,
Well,
there've
I
been
understand
some
the answer. I just-
conversation. Sure, what I can say is if you're not aware, the state superintendent of public education is appointed by the governor's office.
Right.
And so will that look the same? I don't know. I will tell you that this is my 5th year as superintendent, and I have had 4 state superintendents plus an interim since I started. So,
Yeah, I just don't see it improving in the next few months.
we will be improving in the
Well,
next
yeah,
few
no,
months.
we'll be all right.
No, I understand. No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll figure this out.
It's still a lot, yeah.
but-
Still a lot there that,
Yeah.
Jenny, did you have anything? Okay. Any more questions for Dr. Sykes? All right, thank you, Dr. Sykes.
you're welcome. I have superintendent's report next. I'll just stay here and go over that if that works for you instead of walking up to do. Just a couple of things I wanted to bring up or just clarify a little bit better. First is the Fair Labor Standards Act and coaching. And so this came up after our last school board meeting. You all would have received an email from me, but I wanted to clarify, and then if there's still any other questions, answer those. And so again, it's to clarify the requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, as it pertains to athletic coaching positions. And so non-exempt employees of Middlesex County Public Schools are not eligible to hold contracted coaching positions. This restriction is in place to ensure compliance with FLSA laws regarding overtime and compensation for hours worked, which means that MCPS staff who are considered a non-exempt employee may not hold a position of a head coach or assistant coach. They are paid positions. Non-exempt means that employees that fall in this category, and I can give you examples of what positions they are in Middlesex, it throws them into an overtime situation. And the coaching stipend does not cover the amount of overtime hours that are required for our coaching staff, because that is practices, that's games, that's away travel, that goes into postseason. One year, I had a group of girls soccer team get stuck on the Eastern Shore because they closed the Bay Bridge Tunnel, and at 10 o'clock at night, I was getting hotel rooms for the soccer team and the coach and the bus driver. That would all fall into overtime. So it's not in our budget. It's difficult to plan for it because of, again, postseason travel. Maybe they're going to Alta Vista. And so you're paying for all of those things. So for us, non-exempt employees it's anybody on our support staff salary scales, and all of our salary scales are posted on our website. But it is our paraprofessionals, nutrition and transportation staff, clerical, mechanics, and maintenance fall into the non-exempt category. They can choose to volunteer, but again, it's at a volunteer position. It's not contracted. They can walk away from that at any time, which is the reason we will not have them in an assistant coach or head coach position, because we don't want to be in a situation, it's never happened, but we don't want the division to be in a situation where someone is in a volunteer position and decides, I'm not doing this anymore, and walk away either at a home event or an away event or something like that. Again, it has not happened, but that part's to protect the division. And then, of course, we have to follow what the federal laws are that surround this. So I've learned a little bit more about that while doing this. And so I'm happy to answer any other questions. It's not a policy issue, so it doesn't need to be a policy update or a policy change or a policy addition. It is to follow what the federal laws are and then our practices of who's hired for those positions. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know we've had some discussion on it, you and myself and Dr. Burnett.
So it's a change.
Yes.
It's also a change, and it also is implemented for the beginning of the winter season of this year. It is a change of past practice. We have been fortunate that we've not ended up in a situation where we've had, issues over that, but going forward, we don't want to be in that situation. It also did not affect any of our current coaching staff when the decision was made.
Any questions? Okay.
I have one last thing, and that's just to let you all know that our principals have sent us their comprehensive school improvement plans, which is a multi-page document that's aligned to our strategic plan, and then it takes all of the data that they gathered from last year's assessments and everything else. They've been submitted, and Dr. Bishop and I are in the process of meeting with our principals as we go through them. If we identify things that need to be updated or clarified, that's a part of that. We look at what additional resources may be needed in any of those things. And the principals at next month's meeting will be presenting an overview of their plans. So that is actually all I have for the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sykes. All right, next we have any old business? Any new business? Hearing none at this time. In pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board will go into closed session to discuss personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now in closed session.
did she get the award? Was it the school board? Did that get 2021? Hey, Larry, you got everything down? That's a lot to absorb, huh? Well, it doesn't amount to anything. No, it's not. Not really. It's what we're gonna, this is what the range is gonna be, but they don't know what their scores are yet, so. Right, and the scores that they're gonna be getting are from last year. It's gonna be, this is all gonna be big news in the springtime, when it comes down to getting the grades and stuff.
Yeah, but see, usually they have the schools now because they're continuously testing our kids. So
Right.
they're trying to compare these schools to what they did on the SOLs to see where they need to take them. Because all they do is test.
Did they say anything about the, scores for 2024, 25?
They don't have them yet.
Yeah, they didn't say when they were gonna get them?
They don't know.
No, that's what they said, they don't know. Okay,
They
because,
have no idea.
well, they're not gonna try to put them in new frames. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I'm going.
And that's what
They
they're
should,
trying.
they're gonna
No.
put those schools into the new frame.
And that's why they're trying to get this to be a 0 year because the kids that were in ninth grade are not gonna be prepared for whatever the new standards are.
That's right.
I don't know, it sounds like a mess to me. You know, they didn't have the message clear. Hegseth is supposed to be this media TV person, but he's just, you know, he's an idiot. And he was just reading off of this prepared statement, and then somebody answered the question, and it made it sound like they were having a base here. There's no base. It's a training. They're gonna train these pilots.
Okay, so
And-
we're training. We're training the people that can come to us.
We're also selling them the jets.
Please don't even go there.
Yeah, they're coming here to train on the F-35 because they're buying a bunch of F-35s. Now Qatar, I'm not worried about Qatar coming here and killing us. That's, but Israel, they just attacked Qatar to kill political arm Hamas that was supposed to be having a meeting in this room. They went and attacked the building and that particular room. They killed a bunch of people, but it wasn't the people they wanted to kill. And so Qatar is all, Qatar's all up in arms. What is this? And so we're gonna listen to this guy. He's a University of Western Scotland, and he calls all the Times Radio. It's British. And he was explaining all this the other night. I'll send it to you, about 4 or 5 minutes long. I always put it on extra fast, because I can't, oh God.
I know, because I end up, when I'm watching some of these people talk on Facebook, and they're like, I'm like, so I'm gonna go to the next one.
But anyway, he was talking, he said, when Netanyahu targeted Qatar and they violated their sovereignty, they attacked people in Qatar. Qatar, they had some jets. They could have gone up there and had a dogfight and protected themselves. So what they did, they sent Kirshner, Jim Kirshner, and the other real estate guy. He's got 2 real estate guys as top negotiators for Hamas. And so they both went over there, and then when Trump, was speaking to Trump, they made a deal. Qatar could, buy these jets, and they could come and they could train in the United States. It's all gonna be under auspices of the United States military. They don't have any sovereignty here. They're not gonna have a base where they can fly in and out. They're just going there for a training. But those amateurs in this Defense Department, they just screwed it all up. And now they created a crisis, of miscommunication. And with our communication, people hear something and then it's they don't hear anything else because you don't have the nightly news. We're scrolling through and getting our news.
Yes.
And so we hear something and don't we hear anything back, because we're scrolling through, we're getting news from 3 days ago. I already saw that. The way we get news now is totally insane. If you want to know what the news is, you should go to PBS NewsHour while they still have it. Because they go through the news. And they'll say, and they'll report back on a story that they covered earlier in the week. They'll give you updates. And it's all,
Did you see the clip with George Stephanopoulos? Oh my God, it was so funny. It was so funny. George Stephanopoulos had.
Does he work for ABC now still? Or something? See, I never see ABC. wouldn't let Vance give him any of his talking points. All this, yeah. Good. How many people saw it? And who watched it? The people no, because they're not giving those speeds to the people that need to know. They're giving us, one time on YouTube, I went and looked at something, like church-related,
And then you were flooded.
and then I was flooded.
I Googled something the other day, and then my Facebook feed had nothing. I was looking at, the lady was talking about parachutes or something, I went and Googled them. Now my Facebook feed is full of shoe crap.
Yeah, and you get commercials I can ignore, but they were giving me all these stories about these Christian nationalists. And I'm going like, so this, I just did one search, so these people, they're getting a steady stream of this constantly. They're not seeing Jordan Stephanopoulos.
Yep, you got that right.
You know, they're not seeing any of that stuff. And that's why I'm talking about, I'm at a loss. I want to write a letter, but I'm going like, well, what the hell? What the hell? Anybody that reads it has already got their mind made up. Because I can't tell them anything that's going to change their mind. And I'm thinking, all the stuff that's going on, you can list like 6 things that normally one of them would keep us occupied. But we got Portland, you know, Chicago. We've got the, what is it, Alcatraz, no, the alligator.
That's closed.
Yeah, we have all that stuff with the, with the, we have, well, they're opening up a new facility in Georgia now. It's gonna be a huge private detention center with billions of dollars, okay? Because, and all that, he wants to deport 4 million people. He said, we already did 400,000. I don't believe that anyway. 400,000. He said, we've got,
But we're doing it illegally. We're deporting American citizens.
yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. How many of these people that are, I mean, how many of those people that went out there and had that rally, that thanked Trump, how many of them are seeing any of the news that's contrary to their narrative?
But even if they do tell the news something and it's contrary, they'll say, oh, they're lying, that's not true.
They say the same things about us as we say about them. The only problem is we're right and they're wrong.
You got that right, buddy.
Because, you know, I don't know everything. I really, but I can't respect them.
No, and they had a post on that, one of the news reporters said that he counted 60 times Sears interrupted his family.
That one woman, she didn't interrupt her at all.
No, and she stood there and kept her composure. Abigail, what are you going to do, Abigail?
And oh, she kind of, one point she kind of cracked a little smile like, this is great.
At least she did not go back.
Yes.
She did not. So I gave her much credit.
Yeah, she, well, definitely on.
But they should cut that mic.
That's, yeah, definitely on, important, what do you call it? Important, with how you handle yourself. She was like, heads are down, you know. She, you know.
Well, let me tell you what my opponent is doing. No, I don't want no
way they blow that whole thing up,
And you know, what we've had, I think there's 3 cases in Virginia. The one was in Gloucester with Gavin won that. There is a neutral bathroom that's got its own door. Arlington, I know they have 2. They have 2 cases up there. But they were already compliant to see when Youngkin came in and put down that executive order. They were trying to throw them out of compliance. They didn't want to give them no state funding, and they kept fighting them. This is a child civil rights.
you're just trying to make an issue
Out of nothing.
out of, yeah, I mean, I think that there needs to be a meeting of the minds as best possible. I think parents do have a point. If you get it up to high school, I've heard all this stuff though, that the transitioning, it's not like, if they start taking the hormones, they start losing that advantage, the testosterone, building.
They start growing some movies.
They start growing some boobies and their muscles and their bones, you know, it affects their whole growth. And I think they're,
Some are more wicked than a girl. A real girl.
I don't know about that. No, I go to church with a guy.
Oh, my best friend's daughter is gay, and I would tell you, okay, I will stand against anybody for my girl.
And I,
That's my girl, and George Michael is my idol, baby. That's my man.
and
What you do with your house.
yeah, and you know,
It's none of your
and
business.
we've had transvestites, they used to call them transvestites, now they call them trans. You know, forever,
Yes.
forever and ever and ever.
But they even took it all the way back to George Washington days. They went in the wigs and the makeup. They was doing it with men's and men's. Come on.
Those back all the way, and this, so, I don't know how you are with the Bible, but the Bible is not the literal word of God, in my opinion.
No, but it's also how it's taught and it's interpreted.
That's
God
true.
said, I made all. I love all. That's all, that's it.
And how you interpret it, and so we've got this guy Palmer, that he's like the new pope. He declares something, and that's dog. That's he says this is the way it is, and you guys over here, you know, you want to have a question about interpretation of the Bible. You come to me, and I'll tell you what the truth is. I mean,
That's your interpretation too.
but he's so damn arrogant. Where's the humility?
On that post. On that post. That he made this conversation. Cynthia said, what was I?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right back on there.
I saw that.
And so did Hallie. So the meetings on Zoom was going back and forth. Because I told Cynthia, no, we don't need no fall guys, people picking up kids after school, taking them somewhere, teaching them. Because their interpretation of the Bible is not that. Trump came out with a Bible. Who says this? He ain't that big.
Slave owners, they created their own Bible.
Thank you.
And
And then it's in the Bible.
and they left out all the parts that contradicted,
Thank you.
you know, slavery. And they put in all the parts that's
It made them look good.
made them look good.
Follow your master.
That's right. And so,
Do what you're told.
so for me,
As far as I'm concerned, the Bible needs to stay in the church. You go to the church you want to go to because that's what you believe.
absolutely,
And that's where it needs to stay.
I went to Catholic school for 7 years. Oh, yeah, she's gonna have it on Friday. She just doesn't know what time of the day it is.
Okay, well, just let me know.
And she asked them for it in the morning, early, because she's diabetic. And she can't, yeah. So she can't eat anything on Thursday.
Why can't she take the one where you swallow the pill and she did it?
And came back. She did the one where she did the samples, one was one, and it came back with a positive. She's all freaked out.
It could be a false positive.
The doctor said there's a lot of problems.
False positive.
There's a lot of problems with, you know, and so it kind of calmed her down.
Yeah.
She couldn't sleep like that she got.
But she better watch her now.
Well, the one thing about it is she's got this thermometer. Blood sugar constantly.
Yeah, but what does she do?
And she can monitor insulin. So, she doesn't give herself a bolus with this insulin, it's a pump. And your body can maintain a steady, you know, in fasting. Like she's gonna be, essentially it's gonna be, you know, it's about like an 18-hour fast. Yeah, that is a 24-hour fast. So we'll see.
Yeah, because she's got a track meet and stuff this week. So, both my niece lives right over across behind St. Clair Walker.
So let me see.
And so just let me know what you, what else. And I'll check and see what else.
Because Friday,
Because sometimes she goes to UCamp to watch the Roman system. But she'll be home that weekend because she already put it on the calendar. She's got it.
I got a lecture.
So, give me the gouge. Okay. Now if I can find my glasses.
He's back.
Did you get the stuff out of the back? Grab that stuff yet? Well, I know, I'm just like, I didn't. There's just stuff back there. I haven't moved it, so. It's all here. It's VA stuff. Right, about their conference.
I thought that earlier that it looked close to the edge.
I will now entertain a motion to go out of closed session.
I move to approve the consent agenda with.
Not- We have to come out of closed session first.
Oh,
So
sorry.
moved.
Second.
I was excited.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Now you can do it.
Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board discussed personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters during closed session. Matters discussed in closed session have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action and information items. Members of the board, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Board members will respond by roll call vote.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurtry,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
and Ms. Robbins.
Yes.
I will now entertain a motion to approve items in the consent agenda.
Now are you ready?
Yes.
I move to approve the consent consent agenda with the exception of the stipend appointment for number 3.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.